Coming up on Cronkite News, women from all different backgrounds and cultures gathered at the Arizona State Capitol to fight for women's rights.
Plus, one foundation is giving back to Valley nonprofits in the medical field. Find out how these healthcare organizations will use the funds to save lives.
And later, a former Centennial High athlete tragically lost his life. How the school is honoring him.
Cronkite News starts now.
Good evening and welcome to Cronkite News on Arizona PBS. I'm Julia Sandor.
And I'm Camila Williams. Thank you for joining us.
Protests around the nation are taking place just before a new term for the Supreme Court starts. One of the cases expected to be heard could determine the future of abortion rights in the United States. The first women's march of the Biden administration reached the U.S. Supreme Court on Saturday. This march is part of the nationwide protests demanding access to abortion. Thousands of protesters surrounded the court, loudly protesting and cheering to the beat of a drum. Protests took place across the country, including New York, Los Angeles, Springfield, Illinois, and Phoenix.
Hundreds of people arrived at the Capitol building in Phoenix to participate in the Women's March. Cronkite News reporter Shayla Dubon explains why they feel that their rights are threatened.
These women have a strong message coming together for this year's Women's March, passionate to protect their reproductive rights. You can hear the chants. My body, my choice is just one of the messages heard echoing in the streets around the Arizona Capitol. Some protesters, even as young as 7 years old.
I'm excited. I done this when I was when I was younger.
Alessandra's mom says she's been bringing her daughter to marches like this since she was little, teaching her to speak up at a young age.
We're here to support abortion rights and women's rights in general. We're very concerned about what's going on in Texas, and we don't want that to happen here.
The march is a response to the recent U.S. Supreme Court ruling in Texas. One of the organizers, Eva Birch, has been preparing for the big event since Friday.
We are protesting specifically against SB 8, Senate Bill 8, the restrictive abortion ban that is happening in Texas, and other similar bans that are happening across the country from Arizona to Mississippi.
In Arizona courts, judges are blocking portions of a bill that would bring felony charges against doctors who knowingly terminate a pregnancy based on genetic abnormality, something pro-choice activists are fighting to keep blocked.
Well, I hope our governor and our representatives in our Congress hear what we have to say and realize that this is a state full of women, and we want to secure our rights and our right to protect our bodies and make choices for our bodies.
This march was the fifth focusing on abortion justice. Various towns and cities in Arizona held similar events on Saturday. In the newsroom, Shayla Dubon, Cronkite News.
This past week, an Arizona judge declared that Governor Doug Ducey's mask mandate ban on schools was unconstitutional. The Arizona Supreme Court is now set to hear an appeal on November 2nd. The state attorney general is challenging the constitutionality of school mask mandates in relation to the state's budget procedures. Provisions for 3 state budget laws are currently being blocked from taking effect until a decision has been made during the November court hearing. Schools currently have control over their own mask mandates.
Undocumented migrants at the Nogales border are being denied more than just entry to the U.S. They're being denied their rights, according to a recent report. Cronkite News reporter Kimberly Silverio Batistas has details from our Washington bureau.
A recent report documents 35 cases of what migration advocates call abusive treatment of immigrants turned away at the Nogales border crossing over the past year.
The way that they're treated in such an undignified manner, their dignity, the dignity of the immigrant is totally forgotten.
Azar Watam's network Lobby for Catholic Social Justice worked with the Kino Border Initiative to interview migrants as they were sent back to Nogales, Sonora. What they found was everything from migrants being yelled at for asking for basic supplies to having medical records destroyed and worse.
An immigrant had her leg broken. And her bone, her femur, I think bone was broken, and she was expelled back to Mexico, Nogales, Mexico, without any medical support.
Customs and Border Patrol officials declined to comment on the allegations, which they said are under investigation by the agency's Office of Civil Rights and Civil Liberties. But in a prepared statement, it said, CBP constantly works to ensure that all employees understand and maintain the highest level of professional standards in their interactions with stakeholders, those they apprehend in violation of the law as well as with each other. 35 cases may not seem like a lot in a year during which more than 150,000 people were stopped at the Arizona border. But Keno's sister Tracy Horan said it's not surprising that people are reluctant to come forward.
You can imagine for many reasons, because of fear of retaliation or not wanting to share their personal information.
Azar Watham and other organizations have said the main issue is with CBP is having an abusive system.
There's a culture of systemic abuse in the CBP, and they enjoy a level of impunity which makes it continue.
We reached out to the union representing Border Patrol agents, but officials there did not respond to several requests for comment on the report. In Washington, Kimberly Silverio Bautista, Cronkite News.
The advocates said they outlined their findings in a February letter to Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. They said they got a response on individual cases, but that Mayorkas did not address what they call the systemic issues they found.
Starting this week, consular IDs will now start being accepted in the state of Arizona. Consular IDs are a common form of identification used by non-citizens in neighboring countries and have been used for years in the United States. The consular ID does not alter a person's immigration status, but instead serves as a form of identification. Earlier this year, Governor Doug Ducey signed Bill SB 1420, which helped make the consular ID valid in the state of Arizona.
It's the start of Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Coming up after the break, we'll show you the importance of support groups for those battling cancer and how those changed during the pandemic.
Also, one Arizona company wants to take tourism out of this world. Find out more on how you can see and experience what space has to offer.
Cronkite News is more than your local news station. Through our innovative ideas, we create new ways to connect with our viewers and have their stories be heard. Our cutting-edge technology allows us to take a deeper dive into seeking the truth and delivering new perspectives. Stay up to date on top Arizona stories anytime on TikTok, Twitter, and Facebook at Cronkite News.
Every day I wake up, my first thought is, how can I serve this community?
The biggest hurdle was not taking PTSD personally.
Would you welcome, please, the amazing.
Everybody that watches this, they say that I am the greatest that they've ever seen.
Hey, I'm Rick Steves. You know, I don't go anywhere without my passport. And now, thanks to PBS Passport, you can travel with me and watch all 10 seasons of Rick Steves Europe and all my travel specials. This exclusive streaming service is just for our members. Not only can you see all my shows, but you can see thousands of hours of your favorite public television shows. Become a member today and get your passport.
October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. According to U.S. breast cancer statistics, about 1 in 8 U.S. women will develop invasive breast cancer over the course of her lifetime. Megan Newsham visited the cancer support community to find out the impact of support groups for cancer survivors.
Having a support system is essential to keeping an optimistic state of mind, especially those who are fighting cancer. I talked with one survivor about her experience. Each person has their own journey from the year 2020.
Sit, shake, good girl.
However, Rachel Putman survives far more than the pandemic.
Unfortunately, it started the year off. My dad passed away January 19th of 2020, and I kind of thought that would be the worst thing that we would have to go through that year.
There was more bad news. Rachel was diagnosed with stage 2 breast cancer as well as stage 3 ovarian cancer, and COVID just made everything worse.
You know, my mom, my brothers, my family's in New Jersey, so all throughout this, I didn't have my mom, you know, after just losing my father. My husband couldn't come to any of the surgeries with me. He couldn't come. When I found out I had ovarian cancer, I was in that office alone.
And being alone while going through cancer treatments is one of the worst things.
So when COVID came into our community here, what we did is we knew how important it was to make sure that people could still connect and still get the emotional, social support that they need. And so within 10 days, we completely pivoted.
Cancer support community never stopped supporting each other. They offered yoga classes, support groups, even art could help for Rachel. It helped her feel connected to her father.
He loved art though, and he loved exploring art, and he loved going to art auctions, so it kind of was like a way for me to connect with my dad in a little way.
And while DeCarlo says there is no silver lining, she does admit that one unintended consequence of COVID is their ability to reach more people.
We have been able to serve more people earlier in diagnosis, and that's really critical because we know if we can get to folks and help them understand the importance of psychosocial support or emotional social support, their quality of life is increased and they learn survivorship skills.
Rachel says if it wasn't for the support of cancer support community, she would not be the positive person she is today.
Chloe, down.
Rachel is officially cancer-free and will be attending the grand opening of Cancer Support Community in Flagstaff. She continues to advocate for the importance of having a community around you and hopes it will only get bigger going forward. In the newsroom, Megan Newsham, Cronkite News.
Worldview, an aerospace company based out of Tucson, has launched Arizona's first space tourism program. Worldview will be giving people the opportunity to ride in their space capsule to the edge of space. From there, the tourists can experience the view of Earth. The ride to space is designed for people of all ages. The flight will carry 8 passengers and 2 crew members. Worldview also wants to create launch sites at each of the 7 wonders of the world, which includes the Grand Canyon, by early 2024.
After experiencing cooler temperatures last week, the valley will be heating up for the start of the week. Isabella Fredrickson is in the Weather Center with the forecast.
As we head into the fall season, we are going to start to see some of those temperature changes. Taking a look at our futurecast, we are going to see some light rain and wind movements across the state up north. Moving on to our high temperatures, it is Arizona and we are still going to be experiencing some higher temperatures. In Phoenix, we are looking at 91 degrees, and down south in Yuma, we are looking at up to 94 degrees. If you're going to want some of those cooler fall temperatures, I would suggest heading up north. Up north, we are seeing those mid-60s, and at our coolest is Flagstaff at only 59 degrees. Moving on to our evening planner, once it hits 8 p.m., we are going to drop into the 80s, and it's going to stay cool the rest of the evening. Finally, taking a look at our 8-day forecast, while the next 3 days are going to be in the 90s, once we hit Friday, we are going to drop to 88 degrees, and that is going to stay the same into the rest of the week. And once we hit Tuesday, we are at only 75 degrees. As you can see as well, we are seeing some cloud coverage throughout the rest of the week. Enjoy those falling temperatures and happy fall. Isabella Fredrickson in the Weather Center.
I'm Mariah Graves. Coming up after the break, I'll have your Cronkite Sports Report. A former student athlete had his jersey retired at Centennial High School.
Passport is adding new shows and doubling the number of episodes for you to stream. For the first time ever, our most popular programs have been selected just for you.
But there's so much more.
Whether you like to travel,
wow,
feast,
and calories don't count.
Look back.
That is me.
Discover.
You know the whole story.
There's something for everyone.
Let's get to it right away.
Stream on any device with Passport on the PBS Video app.
What you get from Washington Week that you will not get anywhere else are the best and the brightest reporters from different media companies, and they're able to have a real conversation about things that are happening in Washington and around the country. But it's also a show about issues that are relevant to different communities. How do you think that, as the moderator, I feel this deep responsibility to bring in those other perspectives so that people understand how power and politics impact their daily lives?
Friday nights at 7 on Arizona PBS.
Cronkite News provides students at ASU's Walter Cronkite School of Journalism with the opportunity to gain real-world experience in the newsroom. At Cronkite News, our students produce professional content for audiences by taking on all roles, whether they be reporting, anchoring, producing, or studio production. Each department gives students first-hand professional newsroom experience. For more information, visit cronkitenews.azpbs.org.
Welcome back. I'm Mariah Graves, and here is your Cronkite Sports Report. The Mercury are rising at the right time after yesterday's decisive 27-point victory over Las Vegas, moving them one win away from the WNBA Finals. Sun stars Devin Booker and Chris Paul were in attendance for the game, and Paul actually gave away 500 tickets. But it was Brianna Turner who was the star yesterday, as she finished with a career-high 23 points and brought down 17 boards. Head coach Sandy Brondello says she's been waiting for this offensive explosion from Turner.
Yeah, we get to see her every single day, you know, the way she works on a game, and, you know, we are encouraging her to be aggressive offensively. But, you know, tonight we got her in positions where she could, you know, lob it up. She's an athletic player, and great passes by our playmakers there. But her movement, you know, she's getting a feel of how to play around BG too, and that always takes time. And
the Arizona Cardinals improved to 4-0 this season after a 37-20 win on Sunday against the Los Angeles Rams. The Cardinals break an 8-game losing streak to the Rams to remain one of the 2 undefeated teams left in the NFL. Kyler Murray had another impressive day, throwing for 268 yards and 2 touchdowns. Murray is the first quarterback in franchise history to complete at least 75% of his throws over 3 consecutive games. It wasn't just the Cardinals coming out on top in Los Angeles. The Devils continued the Southern California takedown, beating UCLA 42-23. Cronkite News reporter David Bloom went to the game from our Los Angeles bureau.
The Devils' win marks their 2nd straight against a Pac-12 opponent, and their first on the road. There was a bit of added pressure for ASU in this homecoming game, of sorts.
The Arizona State Sun Devils took on the 20th-ranked UCLA Bruins in Pasadena Saturday. For ASU quarterback Jaden Daniels, this game meant more than bragging rights in the division. It was a homecoming.
Being so close to here, it felt good coming back home and you know, getting a win for them. Getting a win for my grandpa that passed yesterday was his birthday. So it just felt good coming back home and playing in front of my family and friends.
The San Bernardino native threw for 286 yards and 2 touchdowns, as well as 45 yards on the ground. Daniels is one of 29 players on ASU's roster who are from Southern California, and the team's track record playing here has been spotty.
We got about 46 guys on the football team in California. Last time we showed up in this place, it wasn't a good outcome for us. I thought our emotions got a little best of us.
The second half was a completely new ball game as the Devils' defense, led by SoCal natives Merlin Robertson and DeAndre Pierce, held UCLA scoreless.
You know, it's funny because we go in at halftime, and I looked at it before we went out. I said, guys, we're still winning. I get it's a point, but we're still in the lead.
Daniels was able to handle the pressure of being back in front of the Southern California crowd. He led the Devils to a dominant 42-23 victory, leaving them alone atop the Pac-12 South.
Arizona State now ranks 22nd in the nation after their victory over UCLA. The Sun Devils will take on the Stanford Cardinal on October 8th at home in Tempe, looking to stay undefeated against conference opponents. In Los Angeles, David Bloom, Cronkite News.
Staying in the Pac-12 as we bring you the story now of a former Stanford standout who lost his life too soon. Before he was a Cardinal, he was a Coyote at Centennial High School. Cronkite News reporter Jaden Sermani was in Peoria for Hof's night.
Zach Hofpower was a standout football player at Centennial High School. The multi-sport athlete went on to play football and baseball at Stanford. In May of 2020, the 26-year-old tragically lost his life after an accidental overdose. Beyond his talent and productivity on the field, Hofpower left a lasting impression on every person he came in contact with.
When bad things happen like that, we all don't want it to be true. Then, I just kind of sat down when I realized it was true and was grateful for the time that I had with him.
Zach was a perfect example, so just be yourself, He didn't care what people thought about him. When it came to who he was as his personality, he was going to be, like they said, loud.
In late September, in a game against Hamilton, Centennial proclaimed it to be Hof's night. Friends and family, by the dozens, took to the 31-yard line at halftime to honor Zach's legacy and retire his jersey once and for all.
It'd be one thing just to honor Zach, but it's another thing to actually, retire his jersey. That's a big thing. I don't see that happen a lot in high school. These kids don't know who Zach is, and, people get to see what kind of player he is, but I wish some of these younger ones could have seen who he really was.
Although Centennial lost the game, the results were secondary to the most in attendance. Under these Friday night lights, it was simply Hof's night.
Maybe I should have told him that I loved him more often, and I did. And there were many people that did, that loved Zach.
At Centennial High School in Peoria, Jaden Sormani, Cronkite News.
And that's going to do it for this Cronkite Sports Report. Let's send it back to you, Julia.
The Valleywise Health Foundation received millions from a trust. After the break, more on how these funds will help support healthcare workers across the state.
Every day I wake up, my first thought is, how can I serve this community?
The biggest hurdle was not taking PTSD personally.
Would you welcome, please, the amazing.
Everybody that watches this, they say that I am the greatest that they've ever seen.
I was so excited when I learned that I was going to be the next moderator of Washington Week. I was incredibly lucky to be mentored by Gwen Eiffel. And what that gave to me was this confidence that I could be my full self and that I was deserving of whatever spaces I was in.
Welcome to Washington Week.
I also feel this great joy in taking the helm of Washington Week, knowing that I can mold it and make it my own, but also make sure that it is still within the legacy and the tradition that made it so great for all of these years.
Your favorite member benefit is getting better and bigger.
This is wonderful.
Over the next year, Passport is adding new shows and doubling the number of episodes for you to stream.
They give us all that they've got.
From your favorite cooking and travel series.
Even the stairs are breathtaking.
To history specials and award-winning documentaries. Better and bigger.
That really is the fun part.
Stream on any device with Passport on the PBS Video app.
It's prime time on your time. Watch Prime Afternoons every weekday on Arizona PBS. Did you miss a show in the evening? Then catch up on Prime Afternoons, your favorite dramas.
No more bloody heroics.
Antiques Roadshow.
Really?
Nature and Nova.
It's time to reintroduce some wonder into this miracle of nature.
All of the best from PBS on Prime Afternoons. Weekdays starting at 1:30, only on Arizona PBS.
Recently, the Virginia G. Piper Charitable Trust awarded over $100 million across dozens of Arizona nonprofit organizations. Cronkite News reporter Spencer Sheehawk speaks with representatives of one of the recipient organizations to see how they will use the money.
The COVID-19 pandemic shook several sectors of the country. Some hospitals were no exception.
We've had a really tough last year just with struggles in the medical center and throughout the organization with dealing with COVID.
Heather Jordan works for Valleywise Health, formerly Maricopa Integrated Health System. They raise funds for Valleywise programs, educational resources, research, programming, and critical patient services. But with the pandemic, the money resources were less.
aspects that have come with COVID, all the hardships, I think, on our staff and for the organization that have come with COVID. So just after what we've been through for the past year and a half with COVID, just such relief to hear of this funding coming in and this wonderful grant that was awarded to the hospital.
During a difficult time.
Virginia G. Piper Charitable Trust gave a total of $123 million in unrestricted grants to 71 Maricopa County nonprofits. Valleywise Health Foundation was among them, receiving $2.5 million.
We can use to help support our staff, as well as build some clinical pipeways where we can hire new folks into Valleywise Health.
According to Valleywise representatives, the Virginia G. Piper Charitable Trust awarded the grant to thank them and show gratitude for all they've accomplished during the pandemic.
We have some food pharmacies in some of our primary care settings where people who need healthy food or have access to it, so we could expand that program. Also, we're looking at some innovation around a vaccination mobile van where we could go right into the community and do more vaccinations, be it flu, COVID, whatever.
Employees say they will have more tools to help the community. In Phoenix, Spencer Chihawk, Cronkite News.
That's it for Cronkite News tonight. Thanks for joining us. For top Arizona stories anytime, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org.